Am I the a-hole for eating at the same restaurant as my husband's family? Original post. I, 32 female, have been married to my husband, 35 male, for 3 years. We dated 2 years before that. I want to start this off by saying that he really is a good guy in other areas. My husband's parents, his 2 brothers, ages 38 and 40-ish, and his brother's girlfriend/fiancés, have a tradition of going out to dinner once a month. I am invited about 50% of the time. I've talked to my husband's brother's fiancé and she says she is invited every time. When I say I'm not invited, I mean that my husband tells me I'm going to the family dinner. It's probably best if you sit this one out. When I expressed that I wanted to come, he told me that it would be best if I didn't. It has caused several fights. About a week ago, my husband went to a family dinner that I wasn't invited to. I was very pissed. So earlier that day, I called and made a reservation at a restaurant they were going to. My husband left the house, not knowing about my reservations, and I left 15 minutes after him. I ended up seated at a table where I couldn't see his family. So I got up as if I was going to the bathroom and walked right past them. They were all there, including his brother's significant others. My husband looked completely shocked and asked me what I was doing there. I told him that I had just been dying for a steak, so I came and got one at the restaurant. My mother-in-law said it was very rude of me to interrupt their family dinner. I pointed out that I wasn't trying to join them. I was just going to the bathroom. I told them to have a good meal and I left. I went and finished my steak by myself. My husband was really pissed when he came home, and he told me that he couldn't believe how much of an a-hole I had been. I said that he was an a-hole for not inviting me to his dinners when his brother's significant others got to go. My husband said that the decision to invite was between him and his family, and I should respect it. Anyway, with the way the word a-hole was thrown around, it made me think of this sub. So I wanted to ask if I'm the a-hole. Am I? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Info: what reason is he and family not inviting you? Nobody has told me outright. I assume that they don't like me, but I don't want to include it in the original post because I don't know for sure why it is. My mother-in-law said it was very rude of me to interrupt their family dinner. There's your answer. You are not family. That also explains why your husband says it's for the best if you don't come. It's a family get-together. And since you are not part of their family, it's none of your business. Also explains why your husband doesn't believe you're entitled to any explanations. He probably thinks that you, as an outsider, are being inappropriately pushy and rude for demanding an explanation. He knows if he honestly told you that you aren't part of his family, you'd probably begin to question why you are married to someone who doesn't believe he's related to you. You could spend a lot of time wondering why you're excluded, arguing with your husband and driving yourself nuts trying to fix the situation. Or you can decide what's best for you and take action. For example, once a month on the family dinner day, you can take an overnight trip, maybe with a friend where you go do something fun. Do not tell your husband where you went because it's none of his business. Or you could have friends over for dinner and tell your husband not to come home until after they have gone because it's for the best if you don't come. If he shows up, tell him, it's very rude of you to interrupt our dinner. Or you could just accept the fact you're married to someone who, for secret reasons, doesn't consider you to be part of his family. Divorce him and go find someone who actually respects you and cares about your feelings. Many years ago, a good friend told me that when someone in your life is being an a-hole or gaslighting you or being passive-aggressive, and you can't figure out why, stop trying to figure it out. Instead, concentrate on what you want and move in that direction. I took that advice. It allows me to stay positive and leave unfixable situations behind. Not stay home. Why are you married to a man who doesn't see you as a family? This post has made me sad for you. That was the tipping point for me in my first marriage. A crisis came up and then my husband said, I'm going to need to go spend a few days with my family. My answer? I'll go with you. Him? No, this needs to just be family. I changed the locks the next day and filed papers about a week later. And now for the update. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented on my post. I wasn't expecting it to get as many comments as it did. I'm trying to go through and read everyone's comments, but obviously that has taken some time and I'm still not done. This week has been a bit crazy, but I feel like I made enough progress to justify an update. Here's what happened. Your comments gave me the confidence to confront my husband about why I wasn't invited, and that I wouldn't settle for a cagey answer. So I asked him about it calmly. It said something like, "Oh, it's just a family decision." So I said, "I'm your family though. I deserve to know why." He said some very vague stuff like, "Well, you just don't fit in as well as everyone else." But I asked him what that meant. He couldn't really explain it. I was thinking about how a lot of you were concerned about the racial dynamics of my relationship. Personally, I had never thought much about it. No one in his family has ever made a racist comment toward me or toward anyone else. But I wanted to cover my bases, so I asked my husband if I was excluded because I was half black. My husband said, and I quote, "No, it's not because of that. You know, I don't care about that." The way he said it implied that someone cared, so I asked who cared. He said nobody. I asked if it was his mom who cared, and he hesitated and said, "Maybe." After a long conversation of prodding him, here's the story I eventually got. His mom is not a fan of me. My race might factor into it, but he said it's also my personality and my political beliefs, and the fact that we went to my parents' house on Christmas Day the first year we started dating. His mom told him that he should think about finding someone who suited him better, and she encouraged him to take some time away from me. She said family dinners would be a great opportunity for him to be with his family where he fit in. I was invited sometimes because the dinners weren't always an excuse to get away from me, but some of them were. I was obviously devastated after hearing that, but it also felt good to finally hear an explanation. I asked him if he thought he needed even more space for me. He didn't even have the time to answer before I went into the bedroom and started packing some clothes. I've been staying at my sister's house for a few days now. I haven't contacted my husband. I'm giving him his space. We'll probably end up separating or getting a divorce, but right now it's too early to tell. This was so hard to type out, but everyone was so supportive and I felt like I owed it to you all. Thank you again for your kindness. You don't owe anyone anything, but this is good, if hard to read. I am so sorry that someone you loved and trusted treated you so horribly. You deserve to be defended and honored by the man you loved, and you always had a right to sit proudly at the family table. You and his family should be ashamed. I hope they know how people around the world feel about them and their unkindness, racism, and general horribleness. I know this is a hard time for you, but I am glad you finally have answers and are able to remove yourself from a situation where your best interests were not at heart. May your faith and love be rewarded, and may karma bite that entire family in the butt. Sending you so much love and prayers for healing. If he is even willing to entertain his mom's idea of he needs someone who suits him better, then he doesn't deserve you. He should have called her on her BS, but he didn't. Unfortunately, none of them will learn anything from this, but teaching them how to not be terrible is not your job. I can't wait until he realizes he can't find anyone better, and I hope he's living her best life without him. You don't know how many times I wished that for myself. But the truth is, the men that have wronged you, especially when you're a woman of color with a white man, they don't even think about you after you've gone. I don't know if it's different with white women, but I'd been fetishized more than I'd like to admit. I would like to hear future updates. This is a tough position. How was their relationship otherwise? My family didn't like my ex-wife, but we're always nice to her. So sorry. Be sure to get all your stuff, including your important papers, your pets if any, and go in while he's at work so it's one less stress while getting out. Big thing. Turn off anything in your name. Cable, internet, electric. Maybe tell them 5 days out so he can call and set it up in his name. Gas, garbage, etc. You don't need to pay for this stuff. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my boyfriend eat dinner with my family after he brought his own utensils? I, female 27, started seeing my boyfriend, male 31, for 8 months. He comes from a well-off family. It has met my parents a while ago and got along well. Though he didn't eat well at dinner and said he was sick. They invited him over for the second time this past week to town. Everything went well till we arrived. He stopped the car, turned it off, then pulled a bag from under his seat. I asked about it, and he opened it and revealed utensils. fork, knife, napkin, set of spoons. I asked why I brought them, and he said because he wanted to use them for dinner. I was baffled. I said, "Dinner? At my parents' table?" He nodded, and I told him this isn't acceptable. In fact, this was distasteful, and I won't let him do this. He got upset and said I should chill. This stuff is expensive and is good brand, and claimed my parents wouldn't overreact like I did, and will not say anything. I said, no, this is so insulting, and I wouldn't allow him to enter my parents' house, much less put these utensils at their table. I asked him if he thought my family were unhygienic, and he said no. He said we were getting late, but I insisted he couldn't have dinner with us like that. He said he won't enter the house then. I said fine, and got out of the car and went inside the house. He texted me saying I was being dramatic for no reason and pressured me to let him come in and bring the utensils with him, but I refused. He said he'd tell my parents, but I didn't reply. Eventually he left and went to the hotel and waited till I returned, then went off saying I stopped him from having dinner with my parents over a petty reason. I said he could have had dinner if he left his utensils in the car, but he said it's all on me. I wasted his time on this trip and ruined the visit. Am I the a-hole for not letting him bring them? Now for the comments. Info. Okay, obviously we need to know why. Why the hell did he bring utensils? What was his reasoning? We need to know. Though he didn't eat well at dinner and said he was sick. Might be a stretch, but I took it as he got dirty utensils and used the excuse of being sick to not use them. To be honest, I wouldn't eat dinner with dirty utensils either, although perhaps he could have brought it up in some polite way and they would exchange them. I think bringing your own utensils is far more awkward than asking for new clean ones. Could be the parents are unhygienic or it was just an oversight while doing the dishes. Old dishwasher or something. This was my first thought as well. But Opie asked her boyfriend if he thought her parents were unhygienic, and he said no. Doesn't mean he was being truthful though. Does he take his own cutlery to restaurants? Because unless he takes his own cutlery everywhere, that is super insulting to your family. Not stay home. Maybe it's just me, but from the expensive comment, I thought he just didn't want to eat with poor people's utensils. I would like to know what kind of restaurants they frequent to answer this exact question. Does your boyfriend have OCD or another mental health condition that would explain this behavior? If he has a genuine problem, then his need to bring his own cutlery is fine. Otherwise, you are definitely not a-hole, and your boyfriend is a nut job. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that I no longer care if he gets hospitalized? I'm not going to eat the same food he does anymore. My husband has been diagnosed with Crohn's disease 2 months ago, which means he has a very strict diet, at least in the beginning. That is mostly chicken, fish, red meat, plain rice, pork, soup, eggs, no fried stuff, almost no vegetables, no fast food, no milk, no drinks, no seasoning or spice, no juice, no snacks whatsoever, only bananas for fruits, and that's about it. It's been a very hard diet for him, and to be supportive, I started eating with him this stuff and only those in front of him and inside the house until he gets much better. It's exhausting eating the same food every day, but we have been experimenting. Sometimes roasted chicken, boiled chicken, roasted fish, carrot soup, etc. And here's the problem. Although he was getting much better, I was getting much worse because I can't handle it anymore. No French fries, no hamburgers, no takeouts, no salad, no lettuce, no tomatoes, etc. And I just can't. It's too suffocating for me. It's almost the same food every day. Every time I sit at a dinner table with him, I force myself to go through it. He asks me if everything's okay, and I tell him there's nothing wrong. I then started slowly giving up and preparing some side meals only for me. He gets really upset and jealous and can't resist when he sees me eating them, so he tries to get his hand on them multiple times, and I push away his hand and stop him, reminding him that it's for me, not for him, and he has to follow his diet for a few more months. 2 days ago, I completely gave up and entirely ate nothing of his food. Only stuff like fries with sauce, etc. There were leftovers in the fridge, and I caught him eating them. He ate like 2 dishes. I yelled at him and he said it's fine, nothing was going to happen. Then 5 hours later, he got explosive diarrhea and constant vomiting and pain. He went to the hospital. The next day morning, the doctor gave him new additional medicine, immunosuppressant Solipred. When we were back home, he was very mad at me and said that it was partially my fault for not being supportive enough and for doing what I did in front of him knowing his condition. I told him that I'm not the one with Crohn's disease. He is an adult and he should control himself. I also told him that I don't care if he gets hospitalized anymore. It will be his fault. He is very upset now and is claiming that he would have done the same for me if it was the other way around. I don't believe him. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I also want to say that we both cook in the house. The problem isn't who cooks. The problem is what do we cook and what food can we have/keep inside a house. You have provided him with the food he can eat. You were supportive at the start, which was very helpful, I'm sure. But you don't have Crohn's. He does. My husband is diabetic, and I have modified our diets accordingly. However, I still eat other food too. My husband actually doesn't want to limit what I can eat because he loves me. It is unreasonable for your husband to demand that you stay on such a severe diet when it is unnecessary. Also, he's a frigging adult and ate 2 plates of the food he knows is bad for him. Not your fault. He did it to himself. Not stay home. Exactly. I have celiac, but my husband does not. For the most part, we eat the same meals. But if he wants something I can't eat, then he eats it. Just because I can't enjoy it doesn't mean he shouldn't be able to. And I'm not going to go eat a whole loaf of bread just because he does. The husband's logic doesn't make sense here. Exactly this. I have celiac and my partner and I both have some gluten-free stuff. Like if we're having pasta, it's easier to just cook 1 pan of pasta so we both have gluten-free pasta. But we have gluten-free and regular bread in the house. And even though gluten-free bread tastes like cardboard and lies, I don't eat his bread even when it's my favorite bread because I'm not a freaking child and can control myself. Not stay home. I don't understand the thought process of all these people saying you're the a-hole. Like he's a full-grown adult. It sucks that he has to restrict his diet, but that doesn't mean you have to too. You're not sick. And I've been so supportive preparing his meals and eating what he eats for 2 whole months. He's acting like a 5-year-old. My dad has diabetes and cannot eat certain foods, but that doesn't mean we don't have those foods in the house. The rest of us can and want to eat them. It was probably hard for him at first, seeing us eat foods that he loved but couldn't eat anymore, but he never even said anything and behaved like an adult should, and understood that just because he can't eat certain foods anymore doesn't mean we can't or won't. It's your husband's responsibility to make sure he follows his restrictive diet, and he needs to respect that you can eat whatever you want because you're not sick. He is.